Look at this pulley.
Don't film that. That's evidence.
Hanging on by a thread, baby. Look at that thing.
That's evidence against us. Yeah, I mean...
What difference does it make now?
On this episode of Retroformance, we're going to install the front crossmember on the Rambler. This is key, and we have to make sure that this is perfect because this determines all of the other suspension mounting points.
Yes, this. So this is the most important.
It's important to make sure that the center line of the spindle is the same as the old suspension. So when we put everything together, there's the correct handling of the car as well as clearances.
All right, so we gotta make sure our center line's good. So we have measurements from the inner fender well here. Got a nice big piece of straight edge. Get these lined up and scribe it right on the new frame rail so when we put the crossmember in, it's at least in the center. Some stuff to block it up with. Get it under there. Center line is clamped in place. So what do we need?
6.5.
Always looking for stuff between the garages. We're within.
We have our 26 inches.
We're within a half an inch of
because I would like to raise the
Okay.
So, if you lay something across the frame.
Alright, so this is the moment of truth. I say we freaking send it.
Yeah, to the crossmember, I think so. As long as our top are.
Oh, that's 26.
Okay. To the rib?
It is 26.
To the rib. Okay, once we got the rib.
It's 26 and like 13/16. Alright, so with the rack on it, this is our adjustment for having it blocked up. That's the 3-inch change. That right here, that's our ground clearance, the bottom of the crossmember. It's not much, but it's the only way it can go. Yes, no, only thing we can do?
It's all we're gonna do. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I'm not worried.
He's not worried.
I'm not worried.
You heard it here first.
I'm not worried.
When notching the crossmember, it's important to cut a little less than you really need to and then grind it into position. With something like the plasma cutter, it's easy to cut too much really quickly and then you're kind of screwed. So just a little bit at a time really works here.
All right, so trimmed it to level. We got it right on these scribed center lines. Square, shinned up from the bottom. Level front to back. Thinking. Time to tack it in.
Now that the cross member is tack welded into place, it's time to work on those shock towers. Now, these not only mount the coilovers, but they also mount the upper control arm as well.
Left, right, get all the calculations right. Slip those bad boys in.
These shock towers come with 3-degree side plates, if you will. What this does is make sure that your suspension is tipped the proper 3 degrees back for anti-dive. Now, this car isn't gonna handle that great anyway, so we wanna make sure this is perfect so that it's not any worse than it already will be with the Cummins up front. With them both in the correct location, it's time to tack weld those suckers on.
Do it before it's all welded in there, so that we have to cut something apart.
Once the cross member and these shock towers are tacked in place, what we want to do is bolt up everything. It's just a check that we like to do so that make sure all the bolts fit and make sure the suspension geometry kind of works before you get too far down the line, because catching something now, cutting a couple tacks, re-welding it on there is a lot easier than cutting a fully welded joint all apart just to make a change.
I thought you were talking about overall, maybe 24.
Luckily, everything looks great. We're happy with the clearances. We're happy with just how everything went together. So now it's time to go on to the next project, which is relocate that steering rack. One thing we were going to try to do on this car, just to give us a little bit more room, was reorient the power steering rack. We are going to tip this thing down a little bit towards the front. What that's going to do is it's going to maintain the same height that we need so that there's no additional bump steer, but it's going to tip a few lines down so that we have a little bit more clearance. It's simple. We got to cut those brackets off, make new ones, and weld those back in place.
That might. Yeah, 1.5 inches.
Next. Hopefully we can find one here.
Yeah.
Oh, copyright.
Yeah, I know. I haven't gotten the marks quite out of it yet. I've only gone like 5/10 on the top end. The bottom is wider than the top.
Okay.
Which
so
I don't know if that's to be expected, or I think it started like that because it was honing more difficult at the top than it was at the bottom.
keep turning it around. Keep turning
Oh,
it. And
flip it completely.
Yes,
Okay.
flip it on and go, and then just spend a little more time
On
on
the
the
top.
top. Go off the stones a little,
Mhm.
but don't
Mhm.
go on this end of the stone because the stones are wearing at the same time. So you have to keep going over them, making passes to get the stones evened up.
Yeah.
If you spend too much time out here, you're gonna have to take the
You
stones.
can't wear the half of the stones down and then push it
Right.
onto the
Oh,
rest
yeah.
of them.
For the new mounts, the simplest thing we could do is use square tubing or box tubing. What it allows us to do is kind of box in the top and bottom if we needed to for added strength, but you also can just weld right down it right to the cross member and put a bolt hole in it.
Yeah.
Bingo!
There it is.
1.5 by 2.5.
Perfect.
Boom. Like a couple thou,
Yeah.
and then do your up to 0, and then go to clearance.
Yeah. Well, I'll get used to it
Yeah,
on the.
we'll see how long it takes you to get bored.
Well, yeah. Because these are.
How long?
Perfect.
Put it up.
They feel cold because they're aluminum.
Possibly.
They're probably room temperature.
So good. I will forever be behind the camera and not ever doing anything. It just looks like you. I just follow you around.
That's alright. Can't do what you do.
Oh, you're better at that. I guess I can push some buttons on this camera.
Yeah, put those buttons on.
Little bit of stuff over here.
Yeah,
Could do a picture and do an I Spy book just on this wall.
I spy debris.
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 The cleanest. The cleanest.
Pretty square.
I put a level on the one on the right.
I did that.
All of our modifications are now made to the front suspension and the steering. So the best thing that we could do is test fit the motor for the last time. All of our calculations and theories about what's gonna fit, what's not gonna fit, what we have room for, all that's great, but really test fitting the motor the last time is where the rubber meets the road.
like it was meant to be. Yeah, it's gonna come up in here. Holy, check it out, dude. And the bolt will miss the rib, so I think we're good. How money is that?
To me, it looks like it's
It could be.
We are pretty shocked at how it all came out. It looks great. It looks like all of our guessing and calculations really panned out in the end. We just have enough clearance for everything. We maintained the ride height we're looking for. The clearance to the oil pan looks good. And the next step with this is just really to get everything fully welded and solidified. That way the thing can finally come off our lift. We can have our lift back and it'll come off of the blocks because now the body and the chassis does not have to be blocked up without the suspension. Remember guys, subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when the next episode drops, and go check out our Instagram where we have more daily updates for you guys. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.